Welcome to the U.S. latest news channel. Watch the video to the end to find out the current and breaking news about the Russian war in Ukraine. After a meeting held jointly by Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and the Ukrainian General Staff, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that the Ukrainian army is on a counteroffensive in most of the regions under the occupation of the Russian army and where the referendum was held. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stressed that the Ukrainian army is rapidly advancing in most of the settlements around the Donetsk and Luhansk regions located on the territory of Ukraine, which Russian President Vladimir Putin announced that he had annexed on October 1st, and announced that since the beginning of October, the Ukrainian army has captured more than 770 square kilometers of territory under the occupation of the Russian army. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, in the continuation of his statement, announced that a total of 29 settlements under the occupation of the Russian army, including 6 in the Luhansk region, have been retaken by the Ukrainian army. The General Staff of Ukraine today, in a statement, Russia's President Vladimir Putin declared by the decision of the regions occupied by the Russian army annexed by the annexation of settlements and regions of Ukraine that had been captured by the army announced. In a report released today, the Ukrainian intelligence agency published a comprehensive report that Ukrainian citizens living in settlements captured by the Ukrainian army around the annexed territories were forcibly recruited into the Russian army as part of the decision to mobilize part of them. Region Donetsk and Luhansk in the published report of the Intelligence Agency of Ukraine, particularly in the vicinity of Ukrainian or Russian citizens who live in settlements or thrown into jail for men, in order to join the army established under partial mobilization of the Russian army buses and were taken away to camps in Russia claimed. The administrative officials of the Luhansk and Donetsk regions, which are the focus of the allegations, denied this report published by the Ukrainian intelligence agency and claimed that the Ukrainian intelligence agency made such statements and published a report in accordance with the instructions of the United States and NATO. Ukraine's President, Volodymyr Zelensky, in a video posted on the social media account, was annexed by the Russian army order of Russian President Vladimir Putin and torturing the citizens of the region and areas forcibly male citizens in the military. He claimed the territory of Ukraine and Russia's annexation of Ukrainian territory was annexed by the army of Ukraine will eventually be taken again and will be refunded the back of the area to be announced. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced that the Ukrainian army had captured more than 500 square kilometers of territory in the Kherson region under the occupation of Russia, saying that the Ukrainian army would advance further and all occupied Ukrainian territory would be seized, and for this they did not intend to give up. Those who should give up should be the Russian army. The General Staff of Ukraine announced on October 7, 2022 that the Ukrainian army captured the town of Makiivka, located in the Luhansk region and subordinated to the Svatov district. Although the Russian army made rapid progress at the beginning of the war after the invasion launched by Russian President Vladimir Putin, 8 months have passed since the start of the invasion, and the Russian army is handing over the occupied Ukrainian territories to the Ukrainian army again. A Russian commander captured in a settlement around the Luhansk region captured by the Ukrainian army claimed after interrogations that Russian President Vladimir Putin was making preparations for the use of nuclear power in Ukraine and gave instructions in this direction. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Sorg noting that Russian President Vladimir Putin about Ukraine and Ukrainian nuclear power did not give any instruction using the media of intelligence in order to change the course of the war and war crimes committed on Ukrainian army claimed that he wants to destroy the Russian army. Russian President Vladimir Putin, who recently made statements to the Russian media, stated that the annexed territories are now connected to Russian territory, and attacks on these territories and attacks on them will be considered attacks on Russian territory. Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The General Staff to comment in case of Russian President Vladimir Putin annexed the territory of Ukraine of the Ukrainian state, which have been the official owner of by saying that Russian President Vladimir Putin said that should be tried in international court. The Ukrainian media television agency, known for its closeness with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, claimed that the Ukrainian army has begun structuring for educational, health and tourism purposes in the regions and towns it has captured from the occupied territories. Crimean state official Oleg Kryukov announced that an important bridge in Crimea, which provides passage between Crimea and Russia, was blown up by a truck loaded with explosives this morning. Oleg Kryukov, in the continuation of his statement, stated that apart from the bridge where the attack took place, the land routes in the region were also damaged, and claimed that the attack was carried out by the Ukrainian army as a result of the investigations conducted into the attack. The Ukrainian intelligence agency announced the destruction of the bridge in the Crimea with a share made on its social media account. A Russian diplomat known for his closeness to Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russian President Vladimir Putin will declare war on Ukraine in the coming hours. With the instructions of Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukraine's army, which began, it's been 8 months since the occupation of the area around the occupied areas annexed by Russia, including in the residential areas, continues to progress. French President Emmanuel Macron announced in a press release held in Prague after the European Union summit that France will create a special fund to provide arms assistance to Ukraine. French President Emmanuel Macron, in the continuation of his statement, also stressed that the French state has always been on the side of Ukraine's honorable resistance, saying that France has all kinds of support in the military field on Ukraine's side. In another press release, French President Emmanuel Macron also confirmed that these weapons will be sent to Ukraine as a result of negotiations on motorized weapons with Denmark. French President Emmanuel Macron announced that the Ukrainian army will take full advantage of the advantages of the French defense industry and the weapons and equipment it has developed, and that France will provide all kinds of assistance to Ukraine. Speaking after the European Union summit, Danish President Mette Frederiksen, one of the European Union member states, stressed that together with France, a quick decree will be issued by the Danish parliament to provide assistance to Ukraine, and Denmark will stand by Ukraine and the Ukrainian army. Russian Defense Minister and Russian President Vladimir Putin, in a press statement after their meeting today, stressed that the European Union countries providing assistance to Ukraine will not be able to supply natural gas from Russia for many years, stressing that the countries providing assistance to Ukraine will pose a threat to Russia. July. Russian President Vladimir Putin's U.S. President Joe Biden, who made statement after statement that protects from radiation 1.000.000 share on social media today, if order dress that has made the resurrection of Russia stressed, and Aletmal claimed that the Battle of Armageddon, which is one of the preparatory works. Who do you think will be the winner of the Russian invasion of Ukraine? Will Russia use nuclear power? What do you think? The General Staff of Ukraine announced in a video shared on its social media account that the Russian armored vehicle AMN 590951 belonging to the occupying Russian army was seized in an area captured by the Ukrainian army around the Kherson region. In the video published by the Ukrainian General Staff, it is claimed that along with the seized vehicle, Russian soldiers who were conscripted into the Russian army after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced partial mobilization were also taken prisoner. Another country that made a statement after the European Union summit was Germany. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier said that Polish President Andrzej Duda and he are conducting joint work on military assistance to Ukraine, noting that they are on the side of Ukraine and stressing that Ukraine will sooner or later be the winner of this invasion. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier also announced that volunteer Ukrainian citizens who will join the Ukrainian army will also be trained by senior commanders who have served in the German army for many years. The Russian Defense Ministry announced that there was an attack on the Russian Tchaikovka base in the Kaluga region of Russia by an unknown drone, and announced that there was no damage except for the explosion of the base as a result of the attack by this drone, which is unknown to which country it belongs. The Russian Defense Ministry also announced that a large number of Russian Air Force aircraft had been diverted to the Kaluga region where the attack was carried out, and that they were conducting patrol flights in the region. The Russian Ministry of Defense also announced that the necessary research has been conducted regarding this attack, and as a result of the research, the perpetrators or countries that carried out this attack will pay the necessary price. Russian President Vladimir Putin will hold a meeting with the Russian Defense Ministry today to carry out the latest assessments and discuss the moves to be made as a result of the ongoing Ukrainian army attacks on the regions annexed by Russia. Many Russian bureaucrats, known for their closeness to Russian President Vladimir Putin, think that Russian President Vladimir Putin will declare war on Ukraine. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov, the Russian soldiers Russia and Ukraine spoke to share on social media today, published as a waste of their time and their lives to fight against an action that endangers far more damaging in the name of the Russian army, stressing that Russia and urging you to lay down their arms. Ukrainian Defense Minister Oleksiy Reznikov published in the rest of the video throughout the history of the people of Ukraine and the Russian people, the brothers, and Russian President Vladimir Putin's aggressive attitude of the commanders of the Russian army for a coup, stressing that this betrayed the fraternity is called. Oleksiy Reznikov expressed that the Ukrainian army and Ukrainian security forces will never mistreat surrendered Russian army soldiers and promised that they will be kept on Ukrainian territory with tolerance until the end of the occupation. Following the advance of the Ukrainian army in the regions under the occupation of Russia, many Russian soldiers surrendered to the Ukrainian security forces and the Ukrainian army. According to the Ukrainian intelligence service, many Russian soldiers who surrendered claimed to be Russian citizens who were recruited after the partial mobilization announced by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to be informed of the developments at the speed of light.